desire, Meri, to have a relationship with you. You can stick around and you can come visit me and Robyn and the kids if you.
No, I don't even know. I'll watch it and I'll be like, Dave, did you just see that? Did he really just say that? Did he really just say that? Are you serious?
Well, don't blame me for not loving.
He always said it was about love, about faith, about family. But behind closed doors, the cracks in Kody Brown's carefully crafted image have splintered into something much darker, something more desperate. And now, according to whispers that were never meant to get out, Kody has turned on the one person he once claimed was his soulmate, Robyn. In a private moment that left even those closest to the family stunned, Kody allegedly laid the blame for their financial disaster squarely at Robyn's feet. The woman he married legally, the woman he said he loved most, the woman who once called herself the last one standing. Now, she's being blamed for the fall of everything they built. Hi, friends. This is Sarah from TLC Sister Wives Daily. If you're as stunned by this as I am, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Do you think Robyn saw this coming? Or is she just as trapped in Kody's mess as the rest of them? Now, let's get into what really happened. From the outside, Robyn was always the favorite, the one with the biggest house, the legal title, and the endless justifications from Kody. But as the family fractured and the other wives walked away one by one, the money started drying up. The TLC paychecks didn't stretch as far without the united front, and suddenly, all eyes, even Kody's, were turning to the financial decisions that led to this moment. The failed Coyote Pass plans, the mounting debt, the house that should have never been bought. Sources close to the family say it came to a head after Garrison's passing, when money matters behind the scenes grew tense. Kody, no longer able to blame Christine, Janelle, or Meri because they'd all left, began to point fingers at the only person left in his corner, and that person was Robyn. According to insiders and show moments that aired, Kody began expressing regret, saying he was manipulated, that he was misled into decisions, that he gave up too much control, and that Robyn was the one who encouraged it all. It's the ultimate betrayal, not just for the fans who watched them stand united for years, but for Robyn, who's now reportedly being made to answer for the chaos they created together. The man who always claimed to protect her has now turned on her, privately accusing her of leading him into the very mess he once defended with his whole chest. And if this fight really happened, if those words were really said, then it's not just a financial fallout anymore. It's a full-on collapse. For years, Kody and Robyn repeated the same tired line, that each wife handled her own money, that finances were separate, and everyone carried their own weight. But if you've been paying attention, you already know that was never the full story. The truth? The wives were contributing more than Kody ever acknowledged, while Robyn quietly benefited behind the scenes. And it all came to light in moments the cameras did catch, especially when Meri had to literally bring in an accountant to prove she wasn't freeloading. Let that sink in. Meri, the same woman who helped build the family from the ground up, was forced to defend herself financially to Kody and Robyn like she was a stranger asking for a loan. In a jaw-dropping moment during the tell-all, Meri revealed that she sat down with them and laid out her financial records, backed up by her own accountant, to prove just how much she had put in. You could hear the exhaustion in her voice. She wasn't just hurt. She was humiliated. Because after all these years, after all that loyalty, she still wasn't trusted. And where was that same energy for Robyn? Nowhere. Robyn never had to pull out receipts. She never had to defend her contributions. In fact, when she joined the family, she came in with debt and immediately needed help buying a home. And guess what? The family, not meaning the other wives, helped cover it. That's not speculation. That's what was said right on the show. The first corporate paycheck the Browns received, Robyn didn't even see the money. It was used to pay for things she needed. That's how fast the so-called separate finances became a shared pot when it came to Robyn. And the house? The massive, expensive home Robyn got in Flagstaff while the others scrambled to figure out their own situations? That didn't come from thin air. That money came from the collective. From Janelle putting off building on Coyote Pass, from Meri holding off on her own dreams, and from Christine slowly realizing that her sacrifices were never going to be acknowledged, let alone rewarded. So let's be honest. The narrative about separate finances was a smokescreen. It was always about who Kody valued most. And Robyn somehow always ended up with more while doing less. The web of financial manipulation didn't just trap the wives, it trapped the truth. And now, as it all comes apart, we're finally seeing just how much was hidden behind that so-called independence. When Robyn Brown entered the picture, it wasn't just another chapter in the sister wives story, or it was the beginning of a total shift in power. What looked like a fresh addition to the plural marriage was actually the turning point that changed the entire structure of the family. Because from the moment she arrived, Kody started handing her not just affection, but authority. And slowly, the balance that had kept the family running, even if it was flawed, completely crumbled. The most obvious sign came with the legal marriage. Kody divorced Meri, his first wife, and the one who had been there since the very beginning, just to legally marry Robyn. At the time, they framed it as a practical decision to adopt her children, but anyone watching could see the emotional shift. Meri was devastated. She tried to support it on the outside, but the pain in her eyes said it all. She wasn't just losing her legal status, she was losing her position in the family hierarchy. From that moment on, Robyn wasn't just another wife. She was the wife. And it didn't stop there. Property titles started changing. Decisions that once required consensus between all the wives suddenly seemed to rest in the hands of Kody and Robyn alone. Robyn's name appeared on homes. Kody's focus turned fully toward her needs. And the others? They were left waiting. Janelle couldn't get funding to build on her Coyote Pass lot. Christine's concerns were brushed off as complaints. Meri was basically iced out emotionally and financially. But Robyn, she got the house. She got the attention. She got the control. What made it worse was the silence. The others were expected to stay quiet, to be team players, to trust the head of the household. But all the while, Robyn was allowed to speak up, question decisions, and assert herself in ways the other wives were never encouraged to do. It became clear this wasn't just about love, this was about power. Kody's entire approach shifted once Robyn was in the legal and emotional driver's seat. He started managing the family like a business, one where only one partner had a vote. And that partner was Robyn. The sisterhood that once held the family together started to fracture under the weight of that imbalance. What once felt like a plural marriage turned into a monarchy, with Kody as king, and Robyn as the one and only queen. Garrison Brown's tragic death didn't just break hearts. It shattered the fragile illusion that the Brown family was still in any way united. In the wake of unimaginable grief, emotions were raw, and the cracks that had always been there suddenly turned into gaping wounds. What should have been a time for healing and reflection turned into a quiet, bitter war. Not just over memories, but over money, inheritance, and who truly mattered in the eyes of Kody and Robyn. Janelle was wrecked. Garrison was her son. Her bright, funny, independent boy who had become a symbol of everything Kody had failed to understand. He wasn't just another kid in the plural family. He was a young man trying to make a life for himself despite a father who had grown distant, controlling, and emotionally unavailable. Garrison had spoken out. He had drawn boundaries, and that had cost him Kody's love. So when Kody started showing public affection and grief, saying things like he missed Garrison or that he was struggling, it struck a nerve, not just with viewers, but with his own family. Because for years, Garrison had asked for connection, for support, and for respect. He didn't get it. Instead, Kody labeled him rebellious, unsafe, and disrespectful. And now that he was gone, Kody wanted to rewrite the story. But the grief wasn't the only pain bubbling to the surface. Behind closed doors, another tension was building. The money. Viewers who've followed the show know that discussions about estate planning, inheritance, and shared assets have long been kept vague, shadowy, and confusing. That was by design, because Kody never made those conversations equal. And with Garrison gone, Janelle and her children were once again left exposed, emotionally and financially. There were whispers that Kody and Robyn were trying to assert control over financial matters that didn't belong to them. That money, intended for Janelle's kids, possibly even savings or benefits in Garrison's name, was being eyed as part of a shared family pot. But this wasn't a shared family anymore. Christine had left. Meri had been pushed out. Janelle was surviving on independence and grit. And now, even in death, her children weren't being honored. What made it worse was how Kody deflected. He didn't address the inheritance questions. He didn't take accountability. Instead, he leaned on public emotion, posting, speaking, weeping. But none of it answered the real question. Where was this love and support when Garrison needed it most? And where was the fairness now that he was gone? For many fans, the answer was painfully clear. It was never about love. It was about control. For years, Robyn Brown played her part with precision. The dutiful wife, the loyal partner, the woman who just wanted peace and unity. But as the family fell apart around her, that image began to crack. And by the time the tell-all episodes aired, it was clear. Robyn wasn't stepping up. She was stepping back. Quietly, strategically. And fans started noticing. Instead of addressing the very real financial fallout or the emotional damage caused by her and Kody's choices, Robyn started playing what many recognize as the gray rock game, staying neutral, flat, and detached. She suddenly had nothing to say. The woman who used to cry about fairness and unity was now avoiding eye contact, answering in vague platitudes, and dodging every chance to show accountability. It was textbook deflection, and it didn't go unnoticed. While Janelle fought tooth and nail to protect her independence, and Meri had to literally sit down with a calculator to prove her worth, Robyn quietly stayed above it all. No financial audits, no public scrutiny, no explanations for why her house was bought before the rest of the family even had land. She just stayed the legal wife, insulated, protected, and strangely distant. During the tell-alls, Robyn wept, but not over what the other wives lost. She wept over the dream being gone. Her dream. A dream that, conveniently, only ever seemed to fully work for her. And when asked about the fractured relationships, Robyn leaned into victimhood, saying she tried, that she was misunderstood, that she doesn't know what happened. But fans knew. They saw how she benefited. They saw the favoritism. And they saw how every decision Kody made somehow elevated her while diminishing the others. And now, even her strongest defenders are asking questions. Why is she so protected? Why is she the only one who hasn't had to answer for the family's downfall? Why did her financial needs get prioritized while the others were told to figure it out? The loyalty Robyn once enjoyed, from Kody, from the family, and even from parts of the audience, is cracking. Because silence is no longer a shield. And playing the victim doesn't erase the truth. Robyn wasn't just there while the family fell apart. She benefited from it. And no amount of crying on camera can cover that up anymore. The fans see it. The wives know it. And now even Kody seems to be waking up to it. Kody Brown spent decades managing his plural marriage like a high-stakes chess game, moving pieces, sowing confusion, and playing each wife against the others just enough to keep control. For a long time, it worked. The wives stayed isolated in their struggles, believing their pain was unique, their questions unwelcome, and their loyalty required. But now, the game is over. It started quietly, with Janelle and Christine reconnecting after Christine left. Then came the stunning shift. Meri, long estranged and emotionally sidelined, began speaking the same truths Janelle had been voicing for years. These weren't just private complaints anymore. The wives were comparing notes. They were re-examining conversations. And in doing so, they saw the pattern. The inconsistencies. The manipulations disguised as leadership. And once they did, Kody's illusion of control began to fall apart. He could no longer use Robyn as a shield. He could no longer frame every wife's frustration as drama or disrespect. Because now, the truth was echoing louder than his justifications. And the children, the very ones he always claimed to be leading, started speaking out too. Garrison had already stood his ground. Gabriel followed. Even Logan and Maddie made it clear that the old structure of silence and blind obedience was done. The next generation was no longer interested in playing Kody's game. They wanted honesty, accountability, peace. But the most telling collapse came from within. Kody's anger no longer held the same weight. His accusations didn't stick. And his favorite tactic, turning wives against each other while painting himself as the misunderstood center, stopped working entirely. When Meri finally walked away, she didn't do it with bitterness. She did it with clarity. When Janelle said she was done, it wasn't a threat. It was a boundary. And when Christine built a new life, she did it without asking Kody's permission or his blessing. Even Robyn, once the untouchable favorite, started losing her grip. The fortress they built together, of shared legal ties, financial dominance, and emotional favoritism, wasn't strong enough to withstand the weight of the truth. Kody tried to lean on her, to reset the narrative. But this time, it wasn't just the wives he was up against. It was the entire foundation of lies crumbling beneath him. In the end, Kody's greatest weapon, confusion, became his greatest failure. Because once the women stood still, looked around, and talked to each other, the fog lifted. And what they saw wasn't a strong patriarch holding a family together. It was a man who built a kingdom out of control and lost everything when his subjects finally walked away. In the end, it wasn't jealousy. It wasn't romance. It wasn't about who Kody loved more, or who tried harder, or who stayed sweet and submissive the longest. That was just the surface, the smoke and mirrors. The real reason it all fell apart was buried beneath years of secrecy, unspoken rules, and a deeply broken system of financial control disguised as family unity. For decades, the Brown family sold an image, plural marriage as a spiritual journey, a bond of love, trust, and shared sacrifice. But behind the smiles and the chore wheels were women who gave, not just emotionally, but financially. Christine raised kids on food stamps while Robyn bought new homes. Janelle worked long hours to pay off land and debts, while Kody poured resources into Robyn's security. Meri was sidelined, but still expected to hand over her income and stay quiet. It was never equal. It was never fair. And that imbalance wasn't an accident. It was the foundation. Kody built a system where sacrifice was expected but never rewarded, where questions were seen as disloyalty, where silence was the currency of staying in his favor. And for a long time, it worked. Because the wives believed the story too, that their struggle had meaning, that their pain was sacred, that Kody knew what he was doing. But Christine changed that. When she walked away, it wasn't just a rejection of Kody, it was a rejection of the lie. Her peace, her joy, her new life shattered the myth that suffering was the price of plural love. And when Janelle followed, it wasn't out of rebellion. It was out of survival. Her strength, her refusal to accept crumbs, showed that quiet endurance isn't the same as weakness. It's wisdom. It's enough. And then came Meri, the woman Kody emotionally abandoned first, yet kept financially entangled the longest. When she brought out the receipts, literal financial statements, years of records, questions Kody couldn't answer, it exposed the heart of the entire collapse. This wasn't about broken love, it was about broken trust. That's why it all fell apart. Because eventually, the truth always catches up. And Kody Brown couldn't outrun the reality that he built his empire on the backs of women who gave everything, and finally realized they deserved more. Now, the family isn't just separated by geography, they're separated by truth. And the ones who left aren't bitter, they're free. They're building lives rooted in honesty, equality, and real peace. And for the first time in a long time, the audience isn't mourning the breakup, they're celebrating the breakthrough. Because the real story of Sister Wives isn't about a man and his wives. It's about women who finally saw the truth and chose themselves.